I'm not an academic. I mean, I went to college and everything, but I didn't study anything that's very marketable. But the one field of academia that I do like is symbology. Symbology is a study of symbols. Don't overthink it. I think symbology is cool because I am a very visual person. I like looking at things and trying to understand what it does or what it means. And looking at symbols and understanding it is like reading or speaking without the words. And reading and speaking are not things that I excel at. Also, Dan Brown's Robert Langdon series is like the only book series that I've actually read, and that's all about symbols. So yeah, symbology is cool. Well, you know what else is cool? Is Skyrim. And Skyrim is full of symbols. So we're going to dive deeply into the world of symbology within Skyrim. Now, when you first think of symbols in Skyrim, you probably think of like the Thieves Guild Shadowmarks, the sigils of the Nine Holds, or all those puzzles featuring carvings of animals, like these ones. Although these are absolutely symbols, they don't really need to be looked at. There's a book that tells you exactly what these shadow marks are. There's not really any story behind the hold sigils. The game devs just thought that they characterized the holds well, and they do. And the puzzle carvings are just as arbitrary as the colors of a Rubik's Cube. They were chosen because they're easily distinguishable from each other for the sake of the puzzle. I want to look for symbols that have no clear meaning. I want to make a discovery and try to use my Robert Langdon skills to deduce what they could mean. So I'm going to go on a tour across Skyrim, and I'm taking you with me. Now we're going to start in Markarth because it's one of Elder Scrolls' most unique cities, and because it's where my current character lives. The plan is to end in Solitude because that's where the Bard's College is, and I feel like a history bard would be the kind of person to do this sort of thing. So,
Honor to you, my Thane.
Don't mind him, that's just my wife's boyfriend. Oh good, it's raining. I love rain. Now as I said, Markarth is unique because it's the only city in Skyrim that wasn't built by the races of men or mer that's still alive today. So surely it must be full of some kind of symbolic symbols, right? Now obviously your first look is to look at all these stone carvings in the wall. Now me, whenever I see these, I think of hieroglyphics in the ancient Egypts. So, you know, maybe that's where the game devs got some kind of inspiration. But yeah, we're just gonna kind of look around and see if we find anything unique. Now this isn't a symbol, I just think it's funny that we have this section of staircase leading to nothing. It just kind of seems like, oh, but I got a staircase, and then boom, your ankles are broken. So I just think that this symbolizes that the Dwemer did not believe in OSHA or any kind of safety standards. Now here I am in a house that belongs to a man named Nepos the Nose, who I previously turned into a pile of ash. And as I look around, of course I see more of these stone carvings that to me resemble, you know how you have like those wallpaper things across your room when you were a kid that could be of like dinosaurs or something. But then I saw this, and I thought this was interesting because to me this looks like a sun carved into a section of the stone wall that could be a window. Like the ancient Dwemer tried to fake sunlight through their carvings. Or maybe the Dwemer had some kind of religious relationship with the sun. I don't really remember. But this makes me think that the Dwemer are like the Skyrim equivalent of the ancient Egyptians because they both just kind of disappeared. And yeah, there's theories behind how they each disappeared, but they also both left behind secrets that people are still trying to figure out today. But anyway, that's kind of all that I see in Markarth, surprisingly. So now here we are in Fallcre. Fallcre is personally my favorite little town, and it's also going to act as our control, if you will, because each of the major cities have their own unique architectural style, and then you got these smaller cities that just have this default style, if you will. So we're just going to take a look around and see what we see. Alright, clearly symbolizing alcohol consumption of some kind is taking place here. But again, that's not really the kind of symbols we're looking for. And it's also worth mentioning that my game is very lightly modded. I don't use mods that break the game, that break the lore. For example, a lot of the mods that I have installed are just things that make the towns seem more towny. I don't have any mods that like put Shrek in the game or anything. That would be kind of ridiculous. Now, one place that's usually chock full of symbols are graveyards. So we're gonna look at the gravestones and see if there's any kind of symbols on the gravestones. Because typically gravestones are adorned with symbols to represent the faith of whoever was buried there, but these just seem like they could use some attention. But yeah, not really a lot to go off of here. Just kind of taking a look at the controlled variable. Also, sometimes it can just be fun and relaxing to just look around, you know? Because a lot of the times when you're playing this game, you just go to where you need to go. You're just going to go straight to Dragon's Reach. You're just going to go straight to the general store. Straight to the smithy. Whatever. But, you know, just go for a walk, man. See what's out there. Like, did y'all know that there's a quarry stone right here? I bet you didn't. Now you do. So yeah, like I expected, nothing groundbreaking here in Fallcre. But the buildings are very much what I think of whenever I think of medieval Viking. Excuse me. I know.
Warriors like us.
I know. It's been tough, but I'm talking here. I'm talking to the internet, thank you. Like I was saying, the buildings are very much what I think of whenever I think of medieval Scandinavian architecture. Our next stop is Whiterun. A lot of Scandinavian architecture was adorned with these intricate carvings in wood that you see here. Now these carvings have actually been categorized into about 6 different styles, each kind of signifying a different era, if you will, of Viking artistry. But I'm not going to go over them because that would be an entirely different video and it would take way too long. But when you look at these buildings, you see there's been obvious inspiration from real world carvings. Plus, I mean, just look at this Temple of Kinnereth and then look at the Borgenstave Church in Norway. Need I say more? Now, you see that both of these buildings, on the top of them, have these dragon carvings. Nothing really deep here. The consensus among historians, I believe, is that they warded off evil spirits in their pagan days. So perhaps that's why Whiterun buildings have them, as some form of protection against the Daedra. Or maybe it's just a shout out to the story behind Dragon's Reach. We all know that it was designed to trap a dragon, but have you ever noticed how the roofs have these spikes on them? None of the other buildings have these. They're all smooth. So if a attacking dragon wanted to land on Dragon's Reach, it couldn't, except on the Great Porch, which is where the trap was. That's just a nice little detail that I had never really noticed before. Now the statue of Talos is interesting. Obviously we got Talos up here doing his thing, but who's this little guy here? Who's this snake that he's bullying? The main theory is that this is Orki, or the Old Knocker. Orki is the Nordic god of mortality in this game, and is often depicted as a snake. Where have we seen snakes before? Maybe those puzzles aren't as arbitrary as I thought? Anyways, Talos was once just an ordinary man that ascended to godhood. So the statue symbolizes him slaying death in order to become a god, which he did. Also, I think it's cool that when we look at this statue, we see Talos killing Orki, but anyone else who's familiar with mythology might see Thor killing Jormungandr. Alright, I think that's all we're going to get out of Whiterun, so let's head over to Rifton. Rifton, I think, is the second most medieval Scandinavian looking of all the cities. Obviously there's the Shadowmarks, but here in the Ragged Flagon Cistern, there's this. You're probably like, what, the well? Well, yeah, but I think it could be more than that. One could argue that this is a circumpunct. A circumpunct is a simple symbol. It's just a circle with a hole in the middle. But it has had a few meanings throughout history. In astronomy, it means the sun. Sunlight's coming through. Great, they got light. In religion, it means God. And in alchemy, it means gold. Now I think it could make sense, since gold is essentially the only god the thieves worship. Yeah, I know that there's the nightingales, the nocturnal, and all that jazz. Not all of these thieves are nightingales, and nocturnal is sort of like on a need-to-know basis. And it's not really a worshipping kind of situation. It's more like a symbiotic kind of relationship. Or maybe it's just a coincidence because that's where the well is. But on the other hand, it's pretty common for these dome structures to have holes in the middle too. Just something to think about. Alright, well, I think Rifton is done. Let's head up to Windhelm. Now, don't get me wrong, Windhelm is also very medieval Scandinavian looking, but to me it seems just a bit more fantastical. Fantastical? But I guess that's sort of the point of the game. It's just a completely different vibe than Whiterun. But we're just gonna do what we've done before and just take a look around, see what we see. I've never noticed that there's these wings carved above this temple of Talos here. It could represent Talos's helmet, because his helmet has these wings on them, and how he ascended. I've never noticed that before. Now, another way that Windhelm differs from Whiterun is all of these carvings are of eagles instead of dragons, probably depicting how Windhelm is basically the Talos capital of the world, and Talos is apparently represented by eagles and flying. So I guess that makes sense. Now, before we stop at Solitude, there's a few more places I want to check out that aren't in the cities. The first is Hogang Temple. Don't worry, we aren't going to look at Alduin's Wall. Esbern already does that for us in the main story. Look at this building. This building is unlike anything that we've seen so far. Now let me show you something else. This is Hogang Temple, a temple located on the sacred Chikubu Island in Japan. Look familiar? I've always wondered why Japanese buildings had their roofs angled like this. Turns out there's a practical explanation and a not so practical one. The practical explanation, aka the boring one, is to help with rainwater runoff and to maximize natural light exposure. But the not so practical explanation, aka the one that fits the point I'm trying to make, is that the curved roofs were commonly believed to ward off evil spirits, because the evil spirits hate curves because the drastic angle would be difficult for them to land on and they would fall off. The Blades thought that dragons were essentially evil spirits, so they made their headquarters hard for dragons to land on, so that they would just fall off. Pretty cool way to pull inspiration from the real world. They even got this pillar here, kind of similar to this pillar here. Next I want to go to Hrothgar. There's not really a lot to look at here, surprisingly, but then there are these banners with the dragon language etched into them, and that caught my eye. And this is where I put my transcribing skills to the test. Looking at the diagram of the dragon alphabet here, each letter is made up of 3 markings. Sidebar here, but whoever made the dragon language did a brilliant job. Dragons don't have thumbs. They can't hold on to writing utensils. So if the dragons were actually the ones like writing, or yes, carving these letters, they can only use one thing, and that's their claws. My headcanon is that each stroke is like a slash with their claws, and these little dots are where the dragon would just like stab whatever they were carving into. So if you're an aspiring writer, and you're trying to create a language, consider the anatomy of whatever the language is for. So if we separate these banners by their letters, we see that the first word on this banner is Thum. Makes sense. The second word is Tum, which means within. On the second banner, this says Lok, which means sky, and Bo, which means like fly or above. So basically these banners say sky above, voice within, which is basically the Greybeard's motto. Alright, here we are back in civilization, in Solitude. Now Solitude really only has one thing that I want to talk about, and that's this symbol right here. This is a keystone. A keystone is the centerpiece of an arch that allows the arch to bear weight. This keystone has a symbol on it. What is this? What does it mean? Well, let's think about it. Is it a Shadowmark? No, that can't be it. Have we seen it before? Well, there was this symbol at the Skyrim Temple, but I think that's just 2 dragons kissing. In fact, whenever I see that, I think of the dragons from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is this symbol unique to the structure? No, it's not just about all the archways in Solitude. In fact, none of the other arches that we've seen even have keystones, which is actually significant. Throughout the video, I've commented how medieval Scandinavian each city looks, and Solitude is the least if you ask me. Solitude was originally designed to be the seat of the Empire in Skyrim, so the architecture is meant to reflect the Imperial style. It's kind of like a hybridization of Nordic and Imperial style. So why does this matter? Obviously, Elder Scrolls pulls from real-life influences. We've already established that. It's pretty clear that Imperials are a copy-paste of ancient Rome. And do you know what Rome has invented? That's right, keystones. So the fact that Solitude, the Imperial city, is the only city with keystones is pretty mind-blowing. It's just a small little thing that symbolizes how much detail the developers put into the game. But what does this symbol actually mean? I think what we have here is a sort of Occam's razor scenario. It wasn't uncommon for keystones to be decorative in some way, so I think it makes sense for that to be the case here. Maybe this was the stonemason's way to indicate to the builders, hey, this piece is the keystone, place it last. Or maybe it was the stonemason's trademark. Maybe both. But the fact that it's even here is the headline. Not everything has to have some deep meaning behind it. Some things are just put there because they like the look of it. And then some nerd on the internet tries to put some deeper meaning behind it. I mean, just look at Mace Windu, for example. He has a purple lightsaber because Samuel L. Jackson just likes purple more than blue and green. Now there's all these theories about what a purple lightsaber represents. Well, if you ask me, this symbol is just a purple lightsaber. Well, that's it. That's all I got. Nothing groundbreaking, but hey, I'm sure it's good enough for a Game Rant article. Let me know if I forgot anything, or if there's something you think I missed I should talk about, or if there's just a different game you think that has some symbology in it that's worth digging into. Or maybe you just want to leave a comment telling me how you think I've lost the plot entirely. I'm basically just fishing for comments at this point. Now let's just relax in the Bard's College as I share my sources with you. Thank you and take care.